Hey y'all, it's Nikki. Welcome to episode 8 of the Working Mamas podcast. And this is the first episode I'm recording with my actual podcast microphone that I bought last summer of 2018, over a year ago. And I'm just now using it. It sat in the box in my office for a few months, and then I took it out the box and put it on display on the desk, and then it still sat there for another couple of months. And my first 7 episodes, I was using my beats for some reason. I would literally look at the microphone and walk past it and use my beats. No idea why, but I saw it today and I said, you know what? I'm going to record this episode that I wanted to record 2 days ago, and I'm going to use my microphone. So, thank y'all for tuning in today. We are coming up on the last Friday of June, which means we are about to kick off the third quarter of 2019. We are halfway through the year, and this is a good time to take a step back and think about where you are as far as your personal goals and your professional goals. I mean, we all had those long list of goals that we were going to accomplish New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and now fast forward 6 months, let's take a look at those and see what kind of progress has been made. I know it's probably wind down season at your jobs. It's vacations, the relaxed dress code, and all of that. But what you don't want to get too lackadaisical on is your professional development and always working to be better. This is a great time to sit down with your boss, find out what's really good. How are you performing? What are they thinking you need to work on? Or what's next for you professionally? Sit down and have that conversation so that if you are lacking in an area, if you are not meeting expectations, or if you feel like you're not where you want to be, you have this second half of the year to step your game up. So start this whole process of evaluating and assessing your progress by having a conversation with your manager. This is something that really you should be doing anyway, at a minimum every other week, and having some type of conversation about your workload, what kind of projects you working on, what's going well for you at work, what's not. And it's not always something that might be on your manager's radar because they have their own career to manage. I mean, some companies do it as a formality to document progress toward goals, and if you don't meet those expectations, that could count against you at the end of the year. Some companies don't have any type of process or any type of employee manager relationship type of things that can really be mutually beneficial as far as individual careers and the team as a whole. So I was preparing for this episode and making some notes, but at the same time I was trying to clean up some files on my computer because I've had my computer for several years, and just trying to get them more organized. And I ended up finding some of my old performance reviews from when I worked at GE, and I just read over a couple of them, like, wow. I mean, GE had me out here with a better vocabulary than Stephen A. Smith, the way that some of the things that I had to write, and I know some of these were like iterations where I wrote it as a draft and then I had to change something or use some template and update some things. But the other part of that was I really wanted to drive home what it is that I was working on, what I needed to work on, and where I wanted my career to go, because I knew that this was being documented, that it was being added to my file, that anybody could access it. So I wanted it to be specific. I wanted it to be clear so that anybody who didn't know me within the company could look at my EMS and see, okay, this is what she's doing right now. This is the level of responsibility she has. This is what she's doing with affinity groups or professional organizations, and these are the things that she needs to develop. So I wanted somebody to be crystal clear about what I was doing, what my purpose was at GE, and where I was trying to go. So anybody that knows me knows that I love GE. I professionally grew up at GE, and I learned a lot. I did a lot. I met some amazing people that I probably would have never met had I worked at any other organization. Had a chance to go to some different places, learn some things, and I really enjoyed that whole GE experience. Those were like the golden years of my career. So I knew that I felt that every day going to work. That's why I took three highways to get there. And I had a 3 hour daily commute round trip. So I loved it that much that I was willing to do all of that. But I knew the type of development that I was getting at GE. And I knew that several years later, when I was further in my career, I would really want to reflect back on that time there because it did a lot as far as molding my career and helping me as far as how to move and navigate in these corporate streets. So I kept a lot of my mid-year reviews, my annual reviews, my one-on-one conversations that I had with my manager, which I actually initiated because I needed the feedback. But what I particularly loved about GE was the ongoing efforts that they made to connect with employees. What's our pain points? What do we need more of? What do we need less of as far as the department is concerned? What do we really think about our managers? I mean, just anything you could think of. There was this annual survey called EOS, the Employee Opinion Survey. Um, and we just basically had the chance to give direct, candid feedback to our leadership, and they would take that feedback and act on it. They had action plans about things they were going to improve based on what employees are saying. If we wanted more development opportunities, then they provided that. If we needed to hear more from our leadership, they made that happen. And it's the same situation with a mid year review for you as an employee, but also even if you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, what actionable steps do you need to take to finish strong for the second half of the year? So I just really wanted to share that because I don't think companies like GE exist anymore. I mean, granted, they're in some unfortunate situations right now, but when I worked there, the 7 years that I worked there was it was amazing. It's something I'll never forget, and I was just glad that I had all these opportunities to talk to my boss, to talk to my one over one, to talk to the VP of the whole center of excellence. And there was nobody feeling like you stepping on my toes because you are going over my head and talking to my boss or nothing like that. So I just really loved the environment there, the way that they treated employees. And I just wish more companies like that existed. So it's just crazy to think about GE, which is almost 130 years old, I think, and one of the original 12 companies on the Dow, and then you get kicked off and replaced by Walgreens. I mean, no disrespect to Walgreens, but um, it was just crazy to be there during some of the best times, and then just to watch it from the outside, just kind of crumble and disintegrate. Um, but anyway, the whole purpose of this episode is to give you all something to think about in your jobs and in your careers now that it's the middle of the year. If you feel like you're lacking, if your boss feels like you lacking, then you have a chance right now to to make it better and improve on those developmental areas so that when it comes to the end of the year annual review, pay raise discussions and those sorts of things, then nothing that you hear is a surprise as far as, okay, well, you you was messing up big time in April. Well, why didn't you tell me in April? Why are you waiting till December to tell me? So that's really the goal of the mid-year review, but also of the one-on-one conversations that you should be having on a regular basis with your boss. And as I mentioned, I started doing it with my boss when I was at GE because I needed to know. I wanted to know what my boss thought, what her boss's boss thought, what her boss's boss thought, what they felt about my experience and what I brought to the table and how I could bring more of that. I mean, I needed that feedback, whether it was good or bad, for my own development. And of course, there was some great feedback, but there was also some stuff that I didn't want to hear. And it's crazy because I'm looking at my reviews and I was looking at we had this rating scale where you either like didn't meet the expectations, you consistently met them, or you exceeded the expectations. And I remember those first couple years, I was always just meeting, and I'm mad. Like, what you mean? I'm exceeding expectations. I'm working my ass off over here in this cube, and that was how I felt then. But now that I'm reading things that I wrote in 2009, in how old are these? 2009, 2011, 2012, 2013. I'm like, girl, sit down. You were not exceeding expectations. So that's what I would tell my old self. Like, trust this process. You are not about to go from the senior to the CFO in 6 months. So now that I'm looking back at this, it makes me laugh a little bit because I was really like real live 38 hot that I was not exceeding expectations. And I felt like it was a personal vendetta against me. Like, why do I keep getting hit with the middle? I'm top of the top. But again, talking to a Nicole from 10 years ago, girl, calm down because you're not. And if you were, somebody will see it. No, you're not, and you know that you're not. So that's just that was a really a big part of why I kept a lot of these because I wanted to see what was I saying back then versus if I look back at it, what am I saying now? So I will include a link to the one-on-one template if you feel like you're at a point where you need to know what's going on in your company, what your boss is thinking or what their boss is thinking. And if you have some goals, if you're trying to get that promotion or you're trying to move into a leadership role, then this template is a great way for you to have some talking points to start that conversation, take the awkwardness out of the whole thing. Because if you've never done this before, if you've never sat across the table from your boss and just really talked about you, your career, what you feel like you're killing it on, and what you feel like you need to work on, and you don't get any feedback from them to say, well, yeah, you know what, you're right. You did a great job on this project, but not so much on this one. If you don't have that candid feedback from your boss, it can be a little bit awkward, but it's necessary. So that's why I created this template. It is the exact same template that I created in 2009 when I initiated the conversations with my boss. So when it came to annual review time, we didn't need 60 minutes to have a conversation. We needed about 10 or 15 because nothing that was on my performance evaluation was new to me because we had been having conversations every 2 weeks for the last year about work related things and administrative things. And so there was really nothing new to discuss. It was more so a culmination of everything that we had talked about throughout the whole year. So if your performance review conversation takes 60 minutes or more than 30 minutes, then you need to download this template. So, um, as far as, you know, I just, the way that I move today, the way that I lead my team, the way that I work is really because of these reviews and this feedback that I got. And I mean, we all have those situations where we have a boss that we love, and sometimes we have a boss that we really don't fool with at all. Like, no, we are not going for drinks after work at all. I mean, but that's fine. I mean, I'm a person that even if I don't fool with you, I can work with you when it comes to business. If we need to get something done, again, we might not be going out for margaritas after work, but If it comes to a project that needs to get done or something that needs to be worked on, then just know that we gonna get it done. Period. Point blank. So, I the purpose of this is to really also give your boss something to think about and let them know that you do care about your future and your career, and that you value their opinions, and that they can possibly help open some doors for you that you can't open on your own. So for me, as a leader, I made it a point to treat my employees like they were my customers. I mean, they were the foundation of my department. They're doing the day to day transactional work, they're the closest to what's going on. And so it's important for me to have these conversations with them, to know how they're feeling, how they're doing, if they're frustrated about something, because it's in my best interest to keep them motivated and to give them the tools and the training and the resources that they need, so that the work environment wasn't super stressful, so that I didn't have to look over their shoulder to see whether or not they were actually doing the work. Um, but just to make sure that when I turned my back and I had to get my work done, that they were also getting their work done. So it's just really important that if you don't talk to your boss, or you feel like you got a issue with your boss, put all of that to the side and figure out what you need to do to make sure that your boss can support you in the next moves that you make. So I just wanted to share a few things about what you can do right now. If you know that you're not giving 100%, if you know that you're trying to get promoted, or you're trying to get that raise or that new job, some things that you can do now, today, to really take yourself to the next level and be better than the person that you were. And this first thing, I just have to say this because I've seen it in practice before, and I've led some large teams and some pretty diverse teams, and I'm just amazed by the number of people who do things and they don't think that anybody is watching them. So the first thing I would say, as far as trying to level up, if you will, at work and really trying to step up your game, is just know that you're being watched. And don't sit at your desk watching TV on your phone. You're watching TV. I don't know how you watch TV when you're doing something else, like on the computer, something that you're being paid to do. I love music. I listen to music while I work, but that doesn't require me to be looking at my phone or looking at my Spotify. I don't know how you can even be on a computer. Most accountants today have dual screens. Be on dual screens, and then you got your video on your phone. That's too much going on. And I have actually had to write people up and even fire people for doing this. I did not realize how widespread this thing was. There's nothing that you watching on your phone that you can't watch when you get home. And how do you watch it on your phone anyway? The screen is so small. Like, I couldn't imagine when I was binge watching Game of Thrones watching it on my phone. It's just not the same. So just know, first and foremost, that you are being watched, even when you think you're not. The next thing is, like I mentioned before, if you got a personal vendetta or some type of issue where you don't get along with your boss, then you need to put all that to the side and get out of your feelings. Get out of your feelings. Nobody in that building cares. And I'm just being real. You're probably mad about something that happened, so you decide you're not going to do your work, or you going to take an extra long lunch, or you leaving at 4 when you should be leaving at 5, just because you mad, knowing that you have deadlines and things to do. It's work. This is what you're being paid for. And most times, I emphasize most times because I know that workplace drama is real, but most times it's about the business. It's about the company. It's about getting things done. And in the end, being in your feelings and thinking you taking it out on the company, when you are only hurting yourself in the process, because you'll soon be seen as somebody who can't handle the pressure, somebody who has an attitude, or you're not a team player. So many unwanted and so many unintended things can come out of that. So get out of your feelings, sis and bruh, because this is for everybody. And lastly, ask what you can do. I guarantee you, if you pop into your boss's office and say, "Hey, Nicole, how's it going? Do you have anything I can work on? Because I just wrapped up my project or I'm done with my stuff for the day. And it's 30 minutes before I got to go. Do you have anything I can work on?" I guarantee you, your boss does not have a clear calendar or a clutter free desk. So instead of taking that last 30 minutes to check your phone, scroll social media, ask them if there's something that you can help with. Most likely the answer will be yes. And I'm pretty sure that if you work on a team and there's five of y'all, that five people are not standing in line at the boss's door asking to take some extra work. So it might be, I have to run to a meeting real quick, but we can talk when I get back. Or you know what, I actually do have something that I need to turn in tomorrow that you can help me with. So I mean, even if they don't have anything for you right this second, more than likely, if a week goes by, if 2 weeks goes by, they'll say, you know what, I remember she came and asked me if she could help me, and now that I have something, let me see if she's up for it. So that goes a long way. When there's a major project happening, when there's some high exposure event going on and they need some extra hands, you will come to mind. I remember one time my boss's boss was having this big meeting, and my boss ended up being out for some reason that day. And then she texted me the morning of and said she had to be out and asked me to go to the meeting in her absence. And so it was an environment where, you know how the leadership has their weekly meetings with their direct reports, but what I loved about this meeting is it used to be just the VP and his direct reports. Well, he decided to open the meeting up to anybody in the department that wanted to join the meeting. I mean, obviously you would be way in the back sitting, probably not even a seat at the table. You kind of push back behind everybody else, but I made it a point to be at those meetings, those every morning at 9 o'clock. I made it a point to be in those meetings. And half the time, I didn't really know everything that was going on, but I had a general idea of what was happening, what the pain points were. And I would always take notes on things because I might go Google it or I might ask somebody about it later. And I mean, again, they were talking about sometimes things that were over my head, but the fact that number one, I was listening and paying attention, and number two, I was present. So everybody knew, okay, they knew I didn't report to the VP, but they also knew that this meeting was open to everybody, and they saw my face every morning at 9 o'clock. So it was on my calendar just like it was my meeting, like it was mandatory. And my boss knew that during our team meetings that I took really detailed notes. So that's why she asked me to go. She knew I was going to go. She knew I was going to listen and ask questions. And she knew that I would have a page or two of notes for her to look over. So you don't I say that to say you don't have to have some big title or a corporate office to make yourself known, to learn really. I worked in accounting, but there was stuff that was happening in cash. I didn't know what the hell a sheetment was until I sat in these meetings. There were tax issues going on, there were regulatory issues going on, but I probably couldn't give you details about every single one of them, but I knew from a high level what was going on simply because I was there. And that was my competitive advantage over my peers. And it didn't require me to do anything that I wasn't already doing. I love to write. I love to talk. I mean, I'm writing a whole CPA exam curriculum right now by hand by myself. Um, I blog and ghostwrite for people because I love to write and I always have. So it's important to be you and bring yourself to the table, not what you think somebody wants, not what you saw somebody else do, not what you saw on social media when you saw somebody living their best life, not knowing what happens behind the scenes. Bring your talents to the table and watch how your efforts pay off. So, um I really wanted to real quick read y'all some stuff off of these performance reviews because it is so just refreshing to me that now I'm laughing about this, but I was legit pissed about not getting that exceeds. I know I talked about that probably 10 minutes ago, but that I was mad about that. I was mad about that. So, I just want y'all to kind of get a feel for where I was, where my head was in 2009 and then 10 years later. So, I started at GE in July of 2009 and then this was my first review in December of 2009. So, my managers I'll read mine first. So, my summary was my main objective is to take time to learn the securitization process and how these transactions impact the business. I am also working on learning more about the numerous functions and responsibilities within my team. And yeah, they were numerous, there was a lot with my team so that I identify any areas for process improvement. I have also made it a priority to actively participate in GE organizations such as the Women's Network and GE Volunteers, not only to meet people, but also to give back to the communities that we serve. Look at that. My goal is to become a securitization expert so that in 2 to 3 years, I am able to progress within the finance team. So that's what I wrote as my summary, just kind of recapping my first 6 months at GE. So that's on the left side. On the right side is what my manager wrote. So she wrote, Nicole demonstrates growth values, being a clear thinker and showing imagination. Let me explain that real quick. So at GE, we used to have these growth values like clear thinker, imagination, external focus, inclusiveness, some other things. And so a lot of times we would create our goals around these growth values. And it really kind of helped to drive your goals to make sure that what you were doing actually added value to the organization. But anyway, um, Nicole demonstrates growth values, being a clear thinker and showing imagination, both in her problem-solving ability and being able to creatively find, that's a typo, to creatively find new ways to increase her skill level. She appropriately asks for guidance when she needs it. She is continuing to learn about the process and communicating better with her team. Although the team has faced many challenges in the last 6 months, Nicole is making strides to improve her knowledge and grow within the team and company. So I was still getting my feet wet. I was still trying to figure out what securitization was and what all of this meant. So let me look at my summary from 2011. My overall objective for 2011 was to learn more about the various functions throughout the COE. This is also the year my daughter was born. I was off work. I was on disability for 6 or 7 months because I had to be put on bed rest with my daughter. So I probably spent 4, maybe 5 months in total at work um, at GE. But I was still getting paid. So thank God for good benefits. Anyway, my overall objective for 2011 was to learn more about the various functions throughout the COE. I volunteered to participate in several projects, including legal entity simplification and creating SC portals. What are SC portals? creating SC portals, individual retailers, both of which positively impacted several functions across the COE. I don't know what SC portal is. I remember the term, I don't remember what it is. Um, I will continue cross training and participating in various projects. In addition, I will continue to grow in my current position, pursuing short and long term goals such as obtaining MBA and CPA. There go that damn CPA. And this is 2011, y'all. This is 2011. It's always been on my goals list. I just kept talking myself out of it. Obtaining MBA and CPA to prepare for my next role and still remain active in affinity networks and extracurricular activities. Wow, I would have cut like three of those sentences out and just been way more to the point. It was very verbose. Um, but see, now I can say this. Now I can say this as I look back on where I was 8 years ago when my daughter was a newborn and she's about to be 8 years old. That was just a totally different time for me. I was still trying to adjust to being a mama. Um, So my manager said, there go that damn consistently meets again, y'all. I didn't get the exceeds in 2011 either. I got it in 2013 though, I think. Anyway, my manager said in 2011, Nicole has grown in her knowledge of securitization concepts by assuming a more active role within the team. She should continue to work toward a greater understanding of the overall process as the team expands into a new trust. So that right there kind of speaks to me being out. Um, I learned a lot about securitization, even though I was only there for 5 months out of the year. But by the time I had came back, I went on maternity leave April 20th of 2011, and I came back like after Halloween. So there was a lot going on. My desk had even moved, and we were about to do some different things with the trusts that we were managing. So I had to get up to speed on everything again because it was about to change. So she also said, hold on, I need water. So she also said, continuing to ask in depth questions, working on cross functional teams, and learning how the we used to say SZ, securitization, learning how the securitization processes impact other teams and their processes are areas that would help her to gain more insight. So, yes, basically, I went out to have a baby. I was gone for over half the year, and I had to basically relearn my job because everything was about to change. Some strengths. Um, my manager said my strengths were in the time that I have worked with Nicole, she has shown to be very good at organizing complex tasks. Now, right around this time, some things were changing, and there was just a lot of change happening in the department. And I actually haven't read this part of it since 2011, so I'm curious to see what it says, just like y'all are. Um, In the time that I have worked with Nicole, she has shown to be very good at organizing complex tasks. However, I believe her primary strength lies in her inclusiveness qualities. Nicole is an excellent team player, encouraging other team members and embracing their ideas. That is so sweet. I didn't realize she said that. Um, in team meetings, she is also very involved in brainstorming and supportive of new ways of looking at tasks. As she learns to understand the big picture view more, that 30,000-foot level, and get out of the weeds, she can utilize these skills to further her career into leadership roles. That's crazy because I do not remember her writing this, but that's exactly what I started doing. We always started having these forest versus the trees conversation because I was doing the work in securitization. Securitization is very complex. There's a lot involved, especially from the accounting standpoint. So I would always struggle trying to come up from a 30,000-foot level and talk about it because I was so used to booking the journal entries, looking at the invoices for when we issued debt and being so far in the detail that I struggled to come out. And part of that was just me being the person I am, and I'm trying to learn securitization, and I feel like I need to know all of the details before I can speak highly and from a leadership perspective about it. So I did not realize I did not realize that she said that. But to be fair, because I'm that person, I like to keep it real. That was what my manager said about my strengths. Here is the next section, the developmental needs, and what my boss said. So the employee input, which was mine, I want to focus most on expertise. And again, I haven't looked this far down these since they actually happened. So I'm reading this. It's almost brand new to me again because it's been so long ago. But employee development, what I wrote is I want to focus most on expertise. While I am proficient in my job, I would like to work on more high level items such as updating monthly control files. Yeah, that was a crazy file. And being more aware of functions taking place in Connecticut. That's where operations was based out of, and they had all the complexities that they saw, and then they would just pass it to us. So it was a lot to learn. It was a pretty cool process too. Doing so will aid in my understanding of the overall securitization process. I will achieve this by participating in dashboard meetings and working more closely with the Connecticut ops team. Yep. So then my boss said, given the complexities of the securitization process, I literally just said that. So, okay, I'm starting to see my own growth here, y'all. Y'all are witnessing a moment, a pivotal moment of personal growth. I have these every now and then when a light bulb goes off in my brain. So, this is this is a cool feeling for me right now. Given the complexities of the securitization processes, the opportunities for growing in the area of expertise are always available. Nicole is definitely making strides each year at gaining a better understanding. In order to become more efficient in her work, Nicole could benefit from a slower, more methodical approach in preparing her work. She asks good questions and makes a concerted effort to understand processes, but can be hindered in moving too fast through a process. You know what? I'm willing to bet that when we had this conversation that I was mad about that. Um Not really mad about it, but just kind of like side eyeing, like, really? What you mean? So, now that I'm thinking about that experience, I have to 100% agree with my boss because I remember those times where I would just be rushing to get something to her just to say that it's done on time. And she would bring it back and say, "This is good, but you forgot this, this, and this, or you didn't update this, this, and this." And I would always be so mad at myself, like all the hard stuff, writing out the journal entry, trying to figure out how to add $750 million in debt plus expenses plus investor, all the investor things to a ledger was easy for me. But when it came to the little things, those were the things I kept just missing the mark on. And it wasn't because I didn't know. It was because it was a race against time for me. So just knowing myself, I'm pretty sure I looked at this and kind of side-eyed her, but now I have to agree with that. Um yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. So, yeah, this was a good exercise for me. See, this is why I just said forget it. I want to do a podcast and I'm going to do it because when I was preparing for this podcast, the goal of it was to tell y'all about my one-on-one template that I created that has been so valuable and instrumental for me in my career. And even after I left GE, I still took that template to other jobs as a director, as an assistant controller, as third in command at my company. Just because I was moving up didn't mean I didn't need the feedback. I actually needed it more than more than ever. So the goal was to share that with y'all, to tell y'all to download it and use it because I really want y'all to be the best that y'all can be out here in these corporate streets. But the fact that I was doing something totally unrelated to the podcast, which was cleaning up my computer, I stumbled on these old performance reviews, which I knew I had them somewhere. I didn't know where they were. I thought they were on my old computer. I didn't know where they were, but I knew that I had them. So the fact that I found them, that I'm able to look at these a decade after they happen, and go back to those times, and I'm just like, yeah, everything that my manager said is, now that I think back on it, was spot on. And I know that I side-eyed her a few times, or I gave her a couple "what you mean though" type of responses when she would say things that were not all peaches and cream. So I mean, I hope that this was helpful for y'all. The interesting thing is this was very helpful for me. Um, Almost in a cathartic kind of way, because like I said, I loved working there, and these were some of the golden years of my career. And there were some things that happened, and relationships deteriorated because people's feelings got in the way. And so and I'm partially, some of the feelings were my feelings, but there were other people's feelings who got in the way. So I say all that to say, now that I look back on it, I'm like, was it even worth it? What was the being mad, was the "fuck this, I'm out of here" attitude um really worth it? Because now it's like, I'm glad I did go through that, because I wouldn't be who I am as a leader, as an accountant, as somebody who was speaking in past tense about the CPA exams, had it not been for a lot of these experiences. So I hope this was helpful for y'all. I really want y'all to download this template. The link is in the show notes. And do what I did. Have some conversations with your boss. Take the formalities out of it, and don't even meet in a boardroom. Offer to take them to lunch. Or if you work on one of these pretty swanky campuses or office buildings, take a walk around the building, and take out the formalities and have a real conversation. Like, hey, I know I've been working in this job for X number of months or X number of years, and we've never really had a discussion about my performance other than, at the end of the year with annual reviews. I'm just curious, as I move through my career, as I progress. Um, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about my performance or what I can work on, and just kind of frame it that way. And I guarantee you, most of the time your boss is very open to having that conversation. And the fact that you are taking an interest in owning your career and not pushing that off on somebody else. A lot of people tend to think it's up to their boss to make decisions for them when it comes to their career, and it's not. So I've never done this, and it's been ill received. I've never been criticized for this. I've actually been praised by some managers, like, wow, this is great. Can I use this to talk to your colleagues? Throat is acting up. But I've actually had managers that took it and used it and had conversations with my peers. And I didn't run back and say, "Hey, I did that. That's mine." I just felt like just something that I needed for my own development is now adding value and paying it forward for somebody else who probably didn't take the initiative, or didn't want to, or probably didn't have the courage to do so. But it's been very useful for me. I like to share with y'all things that are useful for me, that work for me, that help me. So definitely download the template. I would love to hear what you think about this episode. So DM me on Instagram, shoot me an email, hello@nickwinston.com. Or if you're listening to it, share it on social media, share it with your family, your friends, your colleagues, somebody else that you think can really really benefit from taking control of their career, because it really is up to you. But cheers to everybody who is wrapping up the second quarter. Fourth of July weekend is next week, so a lot of us are going to be having a four day weekend, because I think the Fourth of July is on Thursday this year. But the accountants are definitely going to be logging in remotely, or doing something, because it's quarter in, and it gets real at quarter end. So, anyway, I hope you found this episode helpful. I would love for you to share it on LinkedIn, on your social media, whatever. Tag me. And I just really hope that whoever is listening to this, that you've taken some value from this, and that you can really benefit and get to where you want to be in your career. So I will talk to y'all next time. Have an amazing weekend. Cheers to the second half of 2019, and y'all be good.